New law regulating zoos will be published in the coming weeks. Beloved DJ Ian Lang dies aged 55, and only 5 people are studying to become maths teachers. All this and more on another episode of Lovin Daily. Good evening, Malta and Gozo. Welcome to yet another episode of Lovin Daily. I'm Matt, joined by my co-host Tim. Tim, do you want to get things started?
Yes, long-awaited draft legislation which will regulate the operation of zoos in Malta will be published in the coming weeks. Now, this draft law has been in the works for quite a while. The government had promised back in 2020 that it's going to look at the sector. In 2021, they went a step further and announced an impact assessment from an economic and social point of view. This was concluded last December. However, there has been absolutely no update until then. Now, Lovin Malta took the occasion today to ask Parliamentary Secretary for Animal Rights, Alicia Bajay, for an update on the progress of this law, and she said that she's making it a priority to publish it in the coming weeks. So definitely before Parliament breaks for summer recess. She's saying she's adamant there are lots of things to do, but this is one of her priorities and she intends to see it through. She didn't say what the regulation is going to look like. Obviously, this is a very contentious topic. Zoos are quite a relatively new feature in Malta, but they're already extremely popular. Both among locals and tourists. However, there is also an argument to be made that animals do not belong in zoos to begin with, and that if your job is promoting animal rights, you shouldn't be allowing zoos in the first place.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see how this discussion will be moving forward, given that both sides of the animal protection and animal conservation front are very vocal when it comes to the question of zoos. And we'd love to hear from all of you, of course, to see what your thoughts are on the situation. We move on to some unfortunate news now. Popular Maltese radio presenter and DJ Ian Lang has passed away. Known for his blistering sets in Club Access and Sticks, as well as being a prominent DJ on local radio station 897 Bay, Lang worked with Eden Leisure Group for over 3 decades. In a post announcing his passing, Kathy Lang said, "It is with a broken heart and great sadness that I write this post. You are at peace, my love. Fly high, Ian Lang. Your void is already immensely felt and we will miss you forever. The love, laughter and fun we shared is priceless, and the gift you gave to me and our kids Emily, Hannah and Mia. You will live on in our hearts for eternity." She said details of his funeral will be shared shortly today. 897 Bay also posted a heartfelt tribute to Ian Lang, calling him an 897 Bay legend. Of course, from our end at Lovin Malta, condolences to the Lang family, his friends and his colleagues over at 897 Bay.
Absolutely a heartbreaking story, especially considering how young he was. Moving on, new data has shown that only 5 people are currently studying how to become maths teachers at university. This data was revealed in Parliament by the Education Ministry when he was asked by the PN's Justin Schembri for a breakdown of the state of student teachers, and the other courses don't really rate. The other main courses don't really rate so highly either. So there's only 15 students currently studying to become English teachers, 25 studying to become Maltese teachers, and 93 are studying to become primary school teachers. Now, this is extremely worrying, of course, especially considering that these are numbers based over a 2-year course as well as the part-time day courses. So we're talking about them attracting an average of in terms of maths students, them attracting an average of around 2 students, if not less, every year, which is not enough. considering there's a huge demand and considering we have so many schools. And and it was an interesting discussion when we published this story. Many people are pointing out that the government a few years ago revamped the Bachelor of Education course, and in an attempt to professionalize the teaching industry further. Now you need to first get a bachelor's in the subject that you intend to teach at secondary level. So if you want to be a maths teacher, maths, English, Maltese, whatever, and then take a specific master's in teaching and learning. So that's an extra 2 years. So you have around 6 years studying as opposed to 4. And this is acting as a disincentive. And I think it's a very fair point. This revamp might have been introduced with all the good intentions in the world, but the end result, if the end result is that we only have 5 students studying to become maths teachers, something is wrong, something is not right, and it needs to be amended ASAP.
Yes, I mean, as you very well said, right? Whatever the intent might have been when this reform was instituted, in an age when we're always reevaluating the way the current education structure is set up, but while we're always, and we should think of the students, let's also not forget the educators, and whether this is acting as a disincentivization for them, and whether this is contributing to the education of both themselves and students in the long term. So do share your thoughts with us on that front. Moving on to the next story. A man has been hospitalized following an argument in one of Melliha's most popular bays last night. Police were called in to assist the man after said argument escalated to physical violence at around 8:30 p.m. at Adira Bay. Upon arriving at the scene, they found an injured man, a 28-year-old Nepalese resident in Melliha. The individual said that he was involved in an argument with a man who had fled the scene before police arrived. Investigations indicate that a rock was used during the argument, and the man was taken by ambulance to Malta Hospital, where he was certified to have grievous injuries. This is an ongoing investigation, of course, and we'll have more updates for you as we get them on lovinmalta.com.
And finally, Labour MP Rosjan Kotayar has called for a national register for domestic violence abusers, arguing that people have a right to know if their new partner has a history of domestic violence. Now, her proposal is based on something called Clare's Law, which was introduced in the UK around 10 years ago. And Clare's Law works like this. The police, whenever someone is convicted of domestic violence, their name goes on a register, which is not available to the general public, but it's in the hands of the police. And the police can use it can disclose this information when that person's new partner comes to them requesting information. So, for example, you want to know if your current boyfriend or your current girlfriend has a history of abuse and domestic violence. You can go to the police, and the police will be obliged to let you know. This is only crucially for current partners, so you can't use it. You have to show evidence that you are actually together. You can't use it to obtain information about someone's, about someone just because you're curious about them, or because you might be going on a first date to that person. No, it has to be about your current partner. It also allows the police to voluntarily disclose this information to the past abuser's partner. So, if, for example, the police have reason to suspect that someone with a history of domestic violence might be abusing someone or being abusive again, they can go to that person's current partner without that partner going to them and disclosing this information to them. Obviously, what that person then chooses to do with that information is up to them, but it's a safety measure so that they have more information in hand. I don't know, I think it's a very interesting discussion. I mean, I get the aspect of safety and the fact that people have a right to know who that other person is. But then there's also, and this is a trickier part of the discussion, I feel, the issue of reform, right? So we often talk about reforming criminals, people, giving people a second chance. But sometimes it's only skin deep, right? Sometimes when you commit a crime, like at what point does that crime not remain part of you, or if at all?
I mean, when it comes to abuse, right, it's like morality-wise, there's no, it's wrong, So
Of course, it's wrong. But once you do the time,
yes, but I mean, in an age where we're, talking about protecting survivors and victims of domestic abuse, right? Particularly in the environment of the local landscape where there's still a lot of discussion and a lot of work to be done in terms of, authorities and the relevant bodies of, the work that are meant to be protecting those involved in domestic abuse. Like this seems to be a very long-term solution currently. I think at baseline level we should be looking at educational, practices to teach authorities how to better address people who, come forward with cases of domestic abuse. Because at the end of the day, like as we were discussing before we started filming, Tim, this register is not going to exist if people don't take reported cases of domestic abuse seriously, right? So, I mean, it is a nuanced discussion, no doubt about that, but I think in some instances there can be things which can be quite unforgivable, and domestic abuse is one of them, at least in my opinion. So, but it would be great to hear from everyone else, of course, what they think about this. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Please, as always, share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Until then, this has been Matt and Tim, and have an evening full of lovin'.